Hello, 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 Noi here. Welcome to another episode of Love in Deepspace. Today we have with us the man, the myth, the legend, the beautiful, the powerful, the man of many titles. It's our very own fishy, Raphael. Now, Raphael has been the talk of town lately, and it's not just for his myth that dropped a couple of days ago. Although he's received a lot of love and a lot of cheer and a lot of, excitement from the Rafa girlies and the Rafa mains and non-Rafa mains alike. But I feel like every month bunch of people in this fandom get together and decide that they're going to have a hazing ritual for a specific ally and then go after him with no remorse and no regards. That's what's happening. I feel like that's what just happens every month. They just pick up a ally and just tear him apart, just tear into him, and all the allies have been part of this. That's what I say, that every month people just get together and be like, well, we're going to go after you today, which is just very, very sad and very unfortunate to even come across. This time around, it's Raphael's masculinity that's been in the question, or in the soup, as I would say. It's so unfortunate to come across tweets and discourse about Raphael's masculinity in this day and age. Are we really doing this with the amount of awareness that we all seem to have? How are we even indulging in this? How are we doing this? Yes, Raphael's a fictional character. He's not real, but the impact doesn't change. Let us deep dive into why this is not only dangerous, but it can have like a very, very, very solid effect. Very, very solid negative effects in not only fandoms, but outside of it. And why Raphael's masculinity, or the erasure of his version of masculinity, is absolutely dangerous.
Raphael isn't just a love interest. He's a symbol of everything society tells men not to be. Emotionally available, playful and teasing, physically graceful, beautiful, expressive and artistic, not afraid to be seen. But here's the point. He still carries myth, trauma, and power behind that smile. He's a male character designed to be in full range, and that is what people can't handle. They don't want him to be feminine and powerful, because if he is, their definition of masculinity starts to fall apart. Unfortunately, in the recent discourse, he's been labeled not masculine enough, assumed to be queer based on aesthetics or mannerisms, mocked for not being the type of man people expect in romance narratives, especially in an otomegame, a genre designed for emotional intimacy, fantasy, and romance. And the criticism isn't coming from where you'd expect. It's coming from within the fandom itself, especially from women and other queer fans who ironically may not realize that in trying to be progressive, they are reinforcing the very systems that punish softness in men. Again, not all people, just some people. Now let us talk about why stripping that diversity is harmful. Raphael is often mocked or mischaracterized. People imply he's not manly enough. They default him as queer based on posture aesthetics. His tenderness is mistaken for weakness. His flamboyance is used to erase his canonical interest in the female MC. And this does real-world harm too. When audiences erase a soft male character's complexity, they are reinforcing toxic binaries. It tells boys, be tough or be laughed at. It tells men, if you cry, flirt, or wear something beautiful, you better not like women or show strength. We strip layers off him because it's easier than accepting the truth that masculinity has always been more than stoicism and brute force. Why does Raphael's masculinity matter so much? It matters because Raphael is not a blank canvas for projections. He's written with sass and grace, for deep romantic affection for the MC. He has power rooted in myth and rootlessness, emotional range and vulnerability, aesthetics that draw from femininity without apologizing for it. And this makes him dangerous to the binary, because he doesn't choose between softness and strength. He claims both. And that makes people uncomfortable, because he proves you don't need to perform masculinity to be a man. Now, there is real harm of typecasting him. This isn't just disagreement in fandom, it has real world echoes. When we label Raphael as queer because he's gentle, not man enough because he's pretty, a side character because he doesn't brood or punch walls, we are telling real men, including straight men, that if you're soft, you're not valid. And that message lands very hard on queer men whose softness gets reduced to stereotypes, straight men whose behavior doesn't match rigid gender roles, boys who learn early that only safe emotion to express is anger. Erasing his masculinity erases their right to exist without shame. This erasure affects everyone equally. Not only does it affect queer people and queer people who don't identify with stereotypes, but it also affects women. Women who are already struggling, and we as a society work so hard at trying to bring awareness, trying to break the boxes of rigidity, the boxes that try to stereotype and define each of us, because we're not all the same, right? We all have different identities, and not all of us like to be stereotyped and be identified in a certain way. And that goes for everyone involved, whether you're straight or whether you're queer or whether you're, a man, woman, or just non-binary. So how do we go around and box this masculinity as being, well, not valid enough? It's unfair for everyone involved, I believe, because it's harmful for everyone. Because it sends out a message that we are either our stereotypes or nothing else. That we are to be boxed in the same boxes and that we can't get out of them no matter what. Now I have a question. Would it be gatekeeping to say that we should let canon characters exist without forcing them into identity boxes based on stereotypes? Because here's what I think. Real inclusivity means respecting feminine presenting men without assigning sexuality based on aesthetics, letting women enjoy romance narratives without being mocked for liking soft men, understanding that queerness doesn't erase misogyny, and misogyny doesn't only come from straight men. This isn't about exclusion. This is about calling for respectful representation for everyone, queer or straight, feminine or masculine, man or woman. You don't fight toxic masculinity by policing the femininity of men who love women. Soft masculinity has not been something new. It's not something that's recently developed. It's been there since ages. It's just not Western post-industrial Hollywood approved masculinity that we can think of. Now, we have had the mythological god Apollo, who played the lyre and was god of love, music, and poetry. Or I don't think it was love, maybe it was just music and poetry, but he was. Okay, that's one example. Then there's been Japanese samurai who wrote poetry between battles. There are also some of them who are skilled in the art of calligraphy. Then the 18th to 19th century European men who wore heels, makeup, frills, and were considered the elite. So The idea that masculinity equals stoicism is modern, Western, and brutally narrow. Raphael just doesn't break history, he honors it. So when otome games, such as Love in Deepspace, where it's a fantasy space, it's an emotional space, a romantic space, which is expressive, women always don't want the cold and silent and brooding characters. Sometimes they want a character like Raphael. Men who understand beauty, men who speak with their feelings, men who flirt, who love, who cry, protect, and they still look like art while doing it. When fandoms mock or erase characters like Raphael, they're gatekeeping women from their own fantasies. And that's not inclusivity. That's rewriting desire to make it more palatable for people who can't stand the duality in a man. And the cost of that erasure, while it may seem small, but it's a very, very big deal because the pattern is clear. Soft men are erased from romance. Women who like soft men are ridiculed. Feminine presenting men are not allowed to be straight. And complexity is punished. Who wins in the end? Well, nobody. Because now you've stripped the spectrum of masculinity to one dull shade, and called it the truth. Raphael is more than just a pretty face, and honestly, we need to protect him. Because he's a reclamation of softness. He's a myth reborn in grace and grit. He's a man who loves deeply and who would kill in the blink of an eye. And we have the Abyss Walker as an example of that. It's proof that power doesn't always raise its voice. It's sometimes silent and sometimes soft, gentle, and sometimes it's very cunning. Raphael represents a kind of manhood that has always existed, but barely and rarely gets honored in modern fiction. To erase that is to say that you're only valid if you conform. You're only worthy if you're quiet, hard, and unfeeling. You can't be beautiful and brutal at the same time. And you can't be soft and still be straight. But Raphael turns that around and says, well, watch me. Watch me do that. We don't need less softness in men. We need more space for all of it. Let Raphael exist as he is. Because the world, the fandom, and the future need more men and more male characters like him. And apart from that, I would personally like to emphasize on how unfair it is that we have such double standards. When we say that femininity should be accepted in all its diverse forms, because femininity is diverse and we've really worked hard for it. We've fought hard for our femininity, all kinds of femininity to be accepted by the society, and we're still fighting for it. Then how do we turn around and typecast and, box masculinity as just one dull label? That either have to be a manly man punching walls, or that you're just stoic and cold and emotionless and expressionless. How are we, perpetuating these stereotypes when we know that they're so harmful? And we've been fighting against these stereotypes, and we've been encouraging men to be more open, be more, emotionally available and be expressive. So when we know of all these things, how are we going around and establishing the same harmful stereotypes that we were fighting against? Both for, not only for ourselves, but, for others as well, others involved. There is still so much of stigma attached to men and emotions, and men who are naturally sensitive and compassionate, and boys, younger boys who are, compassionate and gentle and kind and caring and very emotionally expressive. But we're not letting them evolve. it's so hypocritical to say that we want this acceptance, but we are not willing to hold space for this kind of masculinity. So let us think about what we are doing in our fandoms and our spaces, because this is the only place where we are able to bring out a positive change for everyone involved. So this is it for my video essay. This is just part 1. I'll come up with part 2, but that part 2 is probably going to be about MC and otome spaces, which is honestly another topic in itself. But they're all interconnected, and hence I feel like this was very important a topic to talk about, and I hope that we are able to have these discussions and this space to thrive together and, you know, make this fandom a more positive space. That's it from me, Nori. I'll sign out. I've been a little sick actually, so it's been difficult to make this video, but I will try. I hope that I did an okay job at least. This is Nori signing off. Until then, do take care and see you guys in the next video.